that the astronauts read out.
Gravitational effect of those planets.
Hi, I'm Chris, and this is NASA Now. When you step out of the orbiting International Space Station, there is only one thing between you and the harsh realities of space, and that is your spacesuit. Today we're going to talk with an expert who will tell us about the spacesuits the astronauts use and why there are many different kinds depending on the type of mission. That's ahead, but first, here's what's happening in NASA now. Russian cosmonauts Oleg Kononenko and Anton Skaplerov got into their spacesuits for the first EVA of the year. While outside the International Space Station, the cosmonauts worked on installing new debris shields on parts of the Zvezda service module and a materials exposure experiment on the Poisk module. During their spacewalk, or EVA, Kononenko and Skaplerov collected some surface samples from the exterior hull of the ISS to examine what types of bacteria may be able to survive in the vacuum of space. Have you ever noticed that when astronauts board a spacecraft for launch, the spacesuit they're wearing is different from the spacesuit they use during a spacewalk? Today, Mallory Jennings, a technology development engineer at NASA's Johnson Space Center, will tell us about the different suits the astronauts wear and what goes into their design. Hello, Mallory. Why do astronauts wear spacesuits?
Astronauts have to wear spacesuits when they're out in space doing work, building or maintaining the International Space Station because space is a hostile environment. For example, there's no oxygen in space, and our human bodies need oxygen to survive. Additionally, space is very hot and very cold, and so we have to provide a comfortable thermal environment or temperature for the astronauts' bodies to continue to function.
Interesting. So when you're working on a design for a spacesuit, what affects the kind of suit you create?
It's important for us to know where we're going and what we're wanting the astronauts to be able to do while they're inside the spacesuit. Building a spacesuit to work on the International Space Station in what we call microgravity is way different than building a spacesuit that an astronaut would need to walk around on the moon or on Mars. And so once we know where we're going and what we're doing, we can then design the specific components of the spacesuit.
Once you've designed the spacesuit, how do the astronauts get used to the spacesuit and its functions?
Astronauts get to do a lot of different training inside their spacesuits. They train in what we call the neutral buoyancy lab, which is the big swimming pool that the astronauts can work in. They train there so that they can practice what it's going to be like to move around inside their spacesuits in space. Additionally, we can simulate microgravity on the airplane by doing parabolas, and we can show the astronauts what it's like to feel weightlessness or no gravity. Additionally, we do a lot of ground testing or training with the astronauts so that they are familiar with where everything is, what to expect, how they'll get into their spacesuits, how to get dressed. It seems like an easy thing for you and I, but it's something that we have to train our astronauts to do so that they do it correctly.
What are the spacesuits made of?
On the EMU, or the extravehicular mobility unit, the white spacesuit, our astronauts have to wear many material layers. From the inside out, you've got a chiffon layer, which goes right up against the skin for comfort. You have a spandex material that your liquid cooling garment's made out of. You have this yellow rubbery material that's we call the bladder. This holds all the pressure inside the spacesuit, which is very important. But if you just had this material layer, you'd blow up like a huge balloon. So we have the restraint layer. This next material layer is called neoprene. It's very similar to what scuba divers wear when they're going underwater. These material layers, we have multiple, and this is called aluminized mylar. This is like what happy birthday balloons are made out of, or aluminum foil. This is used for thermal protection while you're in a microgravity environment. And the last material layer is called orthofabric. This is very specialized to space applications. On the inside, we've got yellow strips that are made out of Kevlar, like bulletproof vests are made out of, so that we don't get a hole in the spacesuit. And then the outside, we've got Teflon, so that our astronauts can stay slick and so they don't snag their spacesuits on a solar panel or some other equipment while they're out in space.
Now that you have a little better idea of what goes into the design of a spacesuit, here's a website where you can learn all about the different parts.
Check out this excellent interactive site where students can explore the components and composition of today's spacesuits. You can find the site by looking for the EMU link on the NASA Explorer Schools virtual campus.
Well, that's it for NASA Now. Be sure to visit our Facebook page and leave a comment. We'll see you next time on NASA Now.
NASA Now comes to you from the virtual campus at NASA Explorer Schools.